This is Rick Prokop at Piano Power Lessons. Today we're going to begin a rather long journey of learning a much more difficult piece, and this is the Chopin Waltz in C-sharp minor, Op.64 No. 2. So this is meant for those of you out there who are more advanced players. Our first goal will be to get through the first section, which goes from here to here. And that encompasses the first theme, very famous. And then what I call the whirlwind section of the waltz, where it really takes off. And that'll bring us to here. But before beginning, let's have a listen to this section. So let's start out by looking at what's happening harmonically in the first 8 bars of the song. And Chopin begins with a very interesting harmonic sequence. So in the first 4 bars, we have C-sharp minor, 1 chord. We have a D-sharp chord, which I'm going to explain later. So let's just put in D-sharp here, and that's a 2 chord. And then we have G-sharp 7th, which is our 5 chord, and then back to C-sharp minor. And I'm signifying minor with a little dash. So we have the progression 1, 2, 5, 1 in the key of C-sharp minor. Let's come over here now to the next 4 bars. And in the next 4 bars, he modulates to A major and does basically the same thing. So his 1 chord is A, his 2 chord is some kind of B, which I'll explain. 5 chord is E 7th. And then he pulls a little trick here. He doesn't return to A, but everything around here indicates that he's going to go to an A, and then he fools you. So I'm just going to put an A in here for now and come back and explain what's going on here. But first, let's take a look down at the keyboard and see what a 1, 2, 5 progression looks like in C-sharp minor and in A major. So 1, 2, 5, 1 in C-sharp minor is as follows. We have C-sharp, E, G-sharp, C-sharp as our 1 chord. The 2 chord is called D-sharp minor 7th, which would be this with a flat 5. Okay, D-sharp, F-sharp, A, C-sharp. And then for the 5 chord, we're going to play a G-sharp 7th and 2nd inversion, right? G-sharp, B-sharp, D-sharp, F-sharp, and then come back to C-sharp. So let's just practice that again. So 1 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord, and 1. All right, now we're going to play those same chords in the range of where Chopin's melody is. So here's C-sharp minor, 2nd inversion. Here's the 2 chord, D sharp minor 7th flat 5 in first inversion, and then G sharp 7th in third inversion, and back to 1. C sharp minor in first inversion. And let's do the same thing in A major. So let's start with A, and that's our 1 chord, A, C sharp, E, A. Our 2 chord, our natural 2 chord, is a B minor 7th, B, D, F sharp, A. And then our natural 5 chord is an E 7th, and this is in second inversion, E, G sharp, B, D, and A. So let's just try that again. So 1 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord, and 1. All right, and let's put those chords now in the range of where Chopin's melody is. So we have A major in second inversion, and then B minor 7th in first inversion, and then E 7th in third inversion, and A major in first inversion. So using those natural chords in both C sharp minor and A major, let's see how the piece would sound. Well, that sounded nice as a waltz, but it was a little different than what Chopin came up with. Well, this is what Chopin did. And it's a lot different. Here he's using a D sharp 7th, which is an altered 2 chord, instead of the regular 2 chord of D sharp minor 7th flat 5. Okay, in root position, here's the D sharp minor 7th flat 5. And here's what Chopin chose, okay? And what that does is it brings a whole chromatic flavor to the line, see? Instead of now in the A major progression, he does this. As opposed to what I gave you. And in that way, he keeps the chromaticism going that he introduced in the first 4 bars. But now we have to look at this chord and see what's going on there. So here, instead of using a regular 2 chord B minor 7th, he does this. See that? He uses an altered 2 chord, which becomes a B 7th with a flatted 9. Okay, and then that resolves to E 7th. And then we're expecting to hear an A major. So the chromaticism that he introduces down here, and then resolving to that, is then echoed or duplicated in the treble of the next part. Okay, so you have that chromaticism followed by this chromaticism. Now let's go to the last 2 bars of this 8-bar example. So we have the E 7th, and we expect to resolve on an A. That would make sense, but this is Chopin, and Chopin is a genius, and Chopin gives us the unexpected. So instead of giving us this and ending on an A, he does this. And he ends on this chord. Well, this chord sounds familiar, and it's an open position of our original 2 chord of C sharp minor, which was D sharp minor 7th flat 5. So the question is, why did Chopin choose to wait until the last chord in the 8th measure to use the normal 2 chord in C sharp minor? And it's because the chord that follows in the next measure is a G sharp 7th with an A on top, which is the flat 9. So in that 8th bar, we have this. So we hear the A right here, but then we're given the normal 2 chord followed by a G sharp 7th, right? 1, 3, the 5 is missing, the 7th is here, and this is a flat 9 that resolves down to the root and then resolves to C sharp minor. So that's pretty cool. So getting back to our score, we begin with C sharp minor, which is the 1 chord. We have D sharp 7th, which is our alternate 2 chord, G sharp 7th 5, C sharp minor 1. Then he modulates into A major. We have A major 1, B 7th with a flat 9 was our altered 2 chord. That, by the way, that B sharp should have been written as a C, so our line should have read C sharp, C natural, B, and A. But Chopin was a smart guy, and he wanted all of these intervals to appear on the page as 6ths. He didn't want a 7th thrown in there. And if he had put a C here, he'd have a D to a C, which would be read as a 7th, and would throw off the continuity of having all of these 6ths descending. There's another 6th, and there's the final 6th. And then next up we have E 7th, which is 5 of A. And then he finally cadences in A, and you have the elements of A major here. E, A, C sharp. The F sharp's like an appoggiatura. It's an upper neighbor, and it resolves down to the E. So we have the full A chord here, but then on the 3rd beat, he surprises us with this D sharp minor 7th flat 5, signaling that we're going back to C sharp minor, because that's C sharp minor's 2 chord. And then the 2 chord that's so subtly placed there is immediately followed by the 5 chord, G sharp 7th, and that A on top is the flat 9, but it's still a G sharp 7th, and then we have the resolution back to C sharp minor. And we're back in business. Well, that should do it for today. In our next lesson, we'll discuss how to play these 8 bars in such a way that you're physically comfortable while doing so. So until then, I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you once again here at Piano Power Lessons.